All right, hello everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to today's weekly market check-in with myself, Greta Wall, I'm your host, and I'm joined by David Prince, the leader of T3 Live's Inner Circle virtual trading floor. David, how's your day going so far today?
Little good, little bad. Uh, yeah, considering the indices, I'd say we're hanging
Mhm.
in there, doing
All
okay.
right, good. All right. So for everyone who's joining us live, go ahead and say hello in the chat. If you're here on StreamYard, if you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitter, let us know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions, get them in quickly for David because it's a busy day for him and the Inner Circle, so we don't want to take up too much of his time. Our topic today is weight loss drugs and the biotech space. We're going to talk a bit about that and then what's currently happening in the market. David, VKTX, Viking Therapeutics, has been a focus for you and the Inner Circle. As a screenshot from a tweet that you sent out yesterday, the data preview for what's coming up from them. I think they're supposed to release this data, what is it, November
November.
3rd? Yeah,
Forgetting
early
exactly,
November.
the beginning of November.
So you have been active in Viking throughout the year. So look at the chart year to date as of yesterday's close. As you can see, trading in kind of a range after spiking earlier in the year. Talk about what you've been doing with Viking, what your current position is, and your expectations for this weight loss drug story on the overall biotech space.
Sure. So biotech is one of those things where it's like feast or famine, even in the best of names. And very often you get these, like I always tell people, if you trade with the stop loss and you don't like to be down 20% to make 50 or 100%, biotech's not for you. Part of it is recognizing that without any significant news, you can have these drawdowns of 20, 30% out of nowhere, and then you can see a stock go up 100%. So VKTX, after a phenomenal run, we've gotten adjusted to the stock price. And we basically have a range, like you said. And recently, it's been a buy for us in the low 60s to low 50s. 60s a level it likes to hold. If it doesn't, it goes low 50s. For one time, we went below 50, but that has been a buy area. And then every time it gets towards 68 or 70, we trim. Recently, we tried to break out above 70, which was a key level on the chart. And because I've grown accustomed to this stock and biotech in general being exciting for a moment, and then it tends to fail. And what looks like maybe a breakout is a failed breakout and comes in. We actually were sellers between 70 and 72. And I was a hesitant seller thinking this might be the moment. But because we weren't close enough to November when they have that moment, because I'm much more bullish biotech into the end of the year, I was pretty comfortable trimming. So we trimmed stock and calls. I have January 70 calls and I have stock from the low 60s. Recently, I'm not bullish the market. I'm bullish VKTX, and I think there'll be buy opportunities, especially into November, but not bullish the market. So we had a quick pullback to the low 60s. I bought some. It bounced to 65, 66. I trimmed some, and I've done nothing with VKTX for the last few days. On the whole, here's what I see. I see a space that conventionally people might think is crowded. I think the addressable market is bigger than most things we've ever witnessed. And I'm not one of those that thinks it's a fad, that it's going to slow down. I also am told, well, after a few months, people go off. Well, actually, I know tons of people on these drugs and they're still on them. And the big difference is their lives have changed forever. I have a partner who was heavy set. And I say that with respect, like I'm experiencing it, right? And it's changed his whole life. He's not a young man. He's not 30 years old. He's healthier now. He ain't going off this drug. I have another friend who was really, really heavy set and unhealthy and has a family to take care of. Well, he's pretty darn healthy now. He ain't going over this drug. So I think not only is it going to be more sticky than a lot of people realize, but I also think the addressable market is so big, it's scary. Then you look at VKTX. I also have a friend, right, who's separate from this fellow that ended up in the hospital because of some of the other drugs, because not everyone accepts them so well. Well, VKTX has an edge there. They really have far better side effects, if any side effects, compared to the predominant drugs out there. So I'm a big fan of this, and I don't think it's a standalone company. I've learned enough in this business to know I don't know when someone takes them out. I don't know if it's tomorrow. I certainly don't know if it's January. but I just don't see it as a standalone company, because if you follow healthcare and biotech, there are so many companies desperate for growth that are sitting on a lot of cash, that are these slow growth machines that don't have a great backlog of new drugs. And VKTX would solve that problem for a lot of them. So just like we saw with Seagen and Pfizer, I think there'll be a game-changing takeout. When it happens, no clue. That's kind of my theory on the space and this individual company that really trades for pennies on the dollar compared to what it's probably worth for other companies. There are people out there who say 140, 150. I'm comfortable saying it's worth 100, 110 at the very least.
All right. When it comes to this data that's coming up in November, about a month away from now, do you see a lot of movement happening with the stock headed into that or post that data at all?
Both. I really think it'll be shockingly clear how much better they are than most. And I don't think that's a secret. So I think as we get closer to the event, it'll work. And let me explain it this way. Tesla almost seems too easy. Tesla, all of a sudden, and you're going to be like, Tesla, what the hell's Tesla got to do with it? It's just the human condition in mind. All of a sudden, Tesla has really performed better than the market of recent, right? And it's because we know this event's coming up. And it's because we know that deliveries are coming. And there's also the China bid in Tesla as well. So sometimes it's simply as getting close enough to the event for people to care and start paying attention. September is not close enough. In the market world, 2 months could feel like a year. So I do think we could have a run into the event. But right now, right here, I'm just kind of not loving the market. And not because it's down today. I've been saying this for a week. I just don't see a lot of catalysts. So I don't care if it's this name. I got flat a lot of names yesterday. I got flat small caps yesterday, IWM. Into strength while it was up. I just didn't feel like there was a catalyst. So I'm kind of risk off in a lot of areas, but do think VKTX will be bought aggressively into the event. We probably just got to get through the next week or two.
All right, great. When it comes to the overall biotech space, you've said multiple times that you are bullish this space headed into the end of the year. Is that still your case when it comes to XBI?
I'd say even more so. Like, I'm going to start to get aggressive on this pullback. If you look back, it's kind of like a carbon copy of what we saw last year. And that move did not really start till mid to the end of October. And it really did go on till the very end of the year or beginning of January. So a lot of this sets up well. We're going to get additional rate cuts. I know he may not make everyone happy. He kind of capped the amount of rate cuts we're going to have yesterday by a half a basis point, or 50 basis points, I should say. But in reality, it's still the same game plan. We just have election, a war that is escalating today that's scaring some people. And I think a lot of this makes some sense because let's face it, we have a debate tonight. We have an election coming up. We have 2 wars going on. There's a lot to be concerned about. So it makes sense to have some volatility and messiness. Come November, December, I love this setup. If we pull back now and we can test our 21 days or even lower on the indices, whether it be Qs, SPY, or Biotech, I think that's where you can maybe get aggressive into a year-end move to the upside.
All right. And then so, XBI, IWM tend to move together. Not always perfect, but they do tend to be related. When it comes to the small caps, we haven't seen any huge breakout since the Fed meeting. There's been some strength, but nothing crazy. Do you see any type of breakout in Q4?
I would think that Mr. Thomas Lee will be proven correct, and maybe not for 300. I'm a little bit more conservative than him. But I do think animal spirits will come out, and you can already see how people are getting comfortable buying other sectors, other themes. And I think China, right, should make people actually kind of bullish on IWM. You might be like, what the hell do they have to do with each other? I think people are just willing to buy other risk assets outside of Mag 7, and they're proving it. Moreover, time and time again the past 2 months, right? We're seeing leadership from some Dow stocks we haven't seen lead in years. Now we're seeing China. So I wouldn't be shocked if all of a sudden IWM, as long as the economy is not falling apart, we do have a soft landing, we're getting our rate cuts. If November, December, all of a sudden we're back at 228 or higher on IWM. Just not thinking 300 or anything. I would like, these are not the best companies in the world. They're not earning the most money. There's a reason why they're small caps. But I do think that fervor can come back, especially because I think the IPO window opens up. They're talking about a hot IPO that's a comp to AMD and NVIDIA today. We have CoreWeave coming out. So you put all that together, it should bode well for IWM into the end of the year. But make it clear, I bought it last week on weakness, 219 through 217s. And I sold some, 221, 222. And then yesterday I looked at it, trading between 220 and 221. And I said, I kind of hate the market here. While I'm up on some stuff, let me ring the register and let me just raise some cash. So not because I knew today was happening, it just didn't feel like I wouldn't go out and buy IWM yesterday at 221. So why the hell am I holding it? So I'm, again, just want to make it clear. I think you really have to, I don't want to see be an artist, but be aware we might have some downside near term for some upside in November, December. That's kind of the game plan.
When it comes to what's happening in the market right now, it's Iran feared to be preparing a direct strike on Israel. That's spiking oil prices, driving down stocks. Definitely some fear in the air for the market. And then you also, of course, for the economy, have the port strike that started last night, which impacts our economy as well.
Yep.
What is your feel on how this could possibly throw a wrench in what the market's expecting from our economy?
Too much. And therefore, we can continue to see down pressure. Anyone who's been around, right? Look at my grays. I've been doing this a while. Knows that, and I don't want to say it's easy, but let's just say like Ukraine war started. I felt awful for some of my friends there. I've been to the Ukraine, but I was an aggressive buyer. I was not shocked when we turned green, right? That day. So everyone knows buy on war. But when you have war, you have a major dock strike. You're going to have inventory issues. You have oil going up. That's a lot, right? So I think overall, it doesn't make me say sell everything, but it makes me concerned that this weakness can go on for the next couple of weeks. And I've been pointing to the 21-day on both the Qs and SPY as an area maybe to start putting risk back on. But I know people get kind of sick and tired of this, but it works. I'm not focused on the indices. A little bit XBI, obviously, a little bit IWM, but more so when are the best opportunities in individual stocks? Because when you get volatility, you get, price discrepancy. And that's where you can make a lot of money. I mean, you could have bought literally NVIDIA in August and made 40% on your money. That's a lot. The market doesn't go up 40% a year. So that's where I'm looking, not necessarily NVIDIA, but in general, I'm looking for individual opportunities. For me, recently, it was obviously BABA, and recently it was AMD, and even NVIDIA last week. So I hope the market comes in, but I'm also looking underneath the hood at individual names for when they provide great risk reward.
Mm-hmm. This is a jobs report week. We got our first piece of data today. We got the JOLTS, a kind of a mixed report there. Tomorrow we'll get the ADP, private employment number, and then the NFP on Friday. Is this jobs report more important, less important, kind of meh after the Fed cut, the first Fed cut last month? Last month, technically, because we're in October.
Yep. I've been saying previously it was all about jobs and less about inflation because we got really comfortable. Then I was, okay, we're neutral. It's 50-50. He's really looking at both. But he literally told us yesterday, goes, even if jobs slow down, I'm kind of comfortable on this path. It's not a set course, quote, right? But he also literally told us, hey, the jobs market doesn't have to weaken severely for me to cut rates. So that kind of tells you don't have to harp on it maybe as much as usual. Some things to look for. Too soft is actually a problem, right? Because that outweighs any goodness you might get from thinking, oh my God, we're going to get deeper rate cuts or more aggressive rate cuts near term. The lack of positive information for our economy, right? People are simply going to worry, oh my God, the economy's in trouble, earnings are going lower, sell, versus, oh, we're going to get more rate cuts. So it's more, you don't want it too weak, and too hot is like too strong a jobs market. That's not really going to be an issue. If it was, it would be, let's just say we'd look past it. So I think the biggest thing you look for is just not too soft. Too soft is an issue.
Totally. So if we, as we come into October, it is a new month of trade, it is a new quarter of trade. What is your strategy? Are you changing anything from September as we get out of that more seasonally weak period? With an election coming up in a month, things are, of course, a little bit different than a typical year. How are you thinking? You've spoken on it, but how are you thinking about the market when it comes to Q4 and specifically October?
Not excited about the next couple of weeks. By the way, September is
Mhm.
typically worse than October, and we just got
Yep.
through a September that was just fine. So I think they're going to kind of make up for it in October. That's my gut, but I'm not a macro
Okay.
guy. And the alpha is going to come underneath the hood. And rather from just like saying that, I'm going to make it real simple. Um, I'm not reinventing the wheel. I think we all saw a move in China. We haven't seen a move like this since 2008. We had 4 days where we had not seen a move that big since 2008. So a couple decades ago, I would have looked at that and been like, I can't buy any of these stocks. It's too late. Oh my God. Instead, I did a cute short on BABA yesterday morning at 213, right? 113, excuse me. Wish it was 213, but at 113. And then we covered like 110. And then I said, okay, let's hope for a green to red move. And we got to be long China because I kind of missed the beginning part of this move. But rather than assume this is just too late and we missed it, you have to realize what just happened. The whole narrative changed. And if anything, it's kind of like a safe haven while I hate the rest of the market, the US market. So yesterday we got lucky. We got that pullback. I'd say I bought the bulk of my stock, 106s and even after hours, 105s. I did buy some 107s. And this morning, all of a sudden, it's saving me. I mean, it's actually a pretty good day for us. I had a couple, one error with Micron we can get into. I had to take a loss on the rest of my stock. But overall, it's actually a pretty good day because of this. So I'm going to tell you, when the smartest guy in the markets, and everyone has a guy they like, right? For me, it's always been Tepper. Tepper speaks English. Tepper's a pure trader. As much as he's a great fund manager, he's willing to make decisions on the fly. He's willing to say he's wrong quicker than the next guy. He doesn't speak with an ego. He just speaks plain English. And when he's that aggressive, you got to wake up, right? So yesterday I was like, okay, am I excited to buy BABA or FXI at 80, 82 relative strength? No. But when something's that strong and you get an 8-point pullback, you better buy it. So that's what I did. That's my plan, is to keep buying pullbacks in China. Sure, if they attack Taiwan, I'm going to wake up pissed off one day. But so far, it worked really well in my favor, and that is my plan. Otherwise, I'd like to see a pullback in the indices pre-earnings season because here we are upon us. I'm not bullish financials. In fact, I've been short JPM, and it paid me yesterday. I got flat my puts. I had a bunch of puts, the 210s, and pulled back quite a bit. I'm more bullish some of the other tech names as we get closer. I definitely, it's odd. So I said, and I don't know why, just a few things set up, but I said about 2 weeks ago, I said, listen, I love NVIDIA. I'm long. I'm still long from 101. And I got long last week, some calls once we had a turn at 115, 116. However, I think if you were to compare AMD and NVIDIA into the end of the year, AMD is going to trade better. For a bunch of reasons. I don't want to make this too long-winded because I got to get back to trading. But I said I really think this is the stock you need to own. So at 154, we got long last week, and I remain long. I sold a bunch because we got into that 169 resistance. That's the name that I'm looking to buy on weakness. I think the momentum's behind Lisa. I think we're looking into 25. So rather than paying that 75 times earnings, which gets really hard on a stock like this, you can look at it at a much more reasonable multiple, basically cut that in half. And I think she's going to beat estimates. I think she's finally hitting her momentum. And as opposed to NVIDIA, where the law of large numbers sometimes gets difficult, best in breed, best CEO, all of that created the category that everyone's going after. AMD is the law of large numbers in the good way. Its numbers are still small, so we can build upon those numbers and maybe blow out estimates. So AMD is a focus on weakness and China, anything China. Now, am I going to buy all of them? No. For me, I keep it simple. FXI, BABA, but that's some of what I'm looking at. And then as we get closer to November, Biotech.
Like David said, he does need to get back to trading, so we're going to let him do that. Just a screenshot from the chat last week on those NVIDIA lottos. You guys had a big win on, I think it was
Can I go over the NVIDIA lotto?
Sure, go for it.
And then we'll get up because it's just what I'm doing right now. So I'm doing less, right? And then last week, there was a 5-day period where NVIDIA was as tight as it's been all year. And most people know what that is. But let's say for the new young lady or fellow that's watching me, tight simply means that it's trading in a tighter range than it has all year, right? It has 4 or 5% moves every day. All of a sudden, it's trading like that. When stocks that we love trade like that, or stocks that we hate, you always pay attention, because when they break from that line, be it lower or higher, the moves expand, right? The tighter it is, the bigger it is when the move happens. So I said, we gotta pay attention to this NVIDIA. And being that I bought the stock at 101 a few weeks ago, it's not like I was excited to buy the stock at 115, 116, but I saw it turn. I saw it go lower one day and then take out its AM high. And I said, this is our signal. So I said, wait a second. I see room from 116 to 124. That's 8 points. How can I make that 8 points feel like 80? That's what I'm doing in this market. So I said, I'm not a gambler, but I love it's early. It was early in the week. It was like a Monday or Tuesday. I'm buying the 118 calls. So we bought the 118 calls for like $1.50 and then went to 4 or something like that. And rather than drink the Kool-Aid, once it got to 124, I was out of all my calls. I had 118s and 121s. It felt like that 2-day period felt like a week or 2 weeks to us. And that's what I'm doing in this market, because the PE on the S&P is kind of expensive. The comps going into 25 suck. Do you know how many companies had their best year in forever this year, and now we got to comp them again next year? So the setup is tough. So that's my focus, is looking for pullbacks into identifiable levels where I can get exciting. If I can maybe turbocharge a trade via options, I'll do so. And then doing less in between and maybe being a little bit bored. That's my game plan right now. Sorry to interrupt,
Right.
but I thought that would explain it well.
Don't ever be sorry. All right, so David, I'll let you get back to your day. Anyone who's interested in applying to join the Inner Circle and have days like this with NVIDIA Lottos with David, you can go to t3live.com/DP to apply and see if you're qualified to join the room. David, have a great rest of your trading day. We will not be back next week because I am going to be out of town. But
okay.
So.
Listen, I have so many friends on the chat in Israel right now. So I'm just letting you know, to anyone watching this, friends affected. And by the way, friends, both Israeli, Palestinian, I don't care, that are affected, innocent people going through this. I'm thinking about you all. Kind of a horrific moment in time. And on top of it, North Carolina, Florida, I feel the same. What I'm seeing in North Carolina, the world kind of sucks right now. What I'm seeing in North Carolina from friends is horrific. Seeing pictures of Asheville. So I just thought I'd mention it because it's not all about money.
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely. All right, David, have a great week.
Take care.
All right, bye.